So today we're traveling right here to the Mediterranean to try an exotic spice that has been used for thousands of years, and it is called Mahlep. And Mahlep is a type of seed coming from the St. Lucie cherry tree, and it has delicious marzipan flavor. Now here in Greece, it's used in an array of different types of pastries, from cookies to breads and sweets. I'm going to show you how it pairs beautifully with this Mediterranean-inspired macaron. First thing that we're going to do to make these Mahlep and fig macarons is we need to make the shells. Now today I've made a beautiful two-tone macaron shell, really reflecting the colors of the fig, using that beautiful deep purple color and that bright green color. And I'm going to go step by step of how to achieve this with our product Gerbe. So I'm going to put a quick video here where I go through all of the steps involved. However, if you want to go into depth to find out all the tips and tricks to get consistency in your eggless macarons every time, I will also link a more detailed video in your course information. Let's get into it. I have a big bowl here. I'm going to be adding my confectioner's sugar along with that almond meal that I dried out earlier. I'm going to whisk those ingredients together just to ensure it's nicely dispersed. I'm going to place down a sheet of baking paper here, and I like to sift my almond meal and my confectioner's sugar, and this is going to ensure a nice smooth top to our macaron shells. For that coarser almond meal, you can use like a big metal spoon to pass it through your sieve. Let's give that a good mix again. I'm going to make these two different colors, so I want to divide this into two bowls. Okay, perfect. Now we can get moving on to making our French meringue. So we're using the French meringue method, also known as the cold meringue method. And to replace our egg white, we're using an ingredient called Gerbe. Now this is a potato protein blend, which includes potato protein, some xanthan gum, and some plant fiber. So it's going to stabilize our foam and allow us to make a completely egg-free macaron. So I've already gone ahead and weighed out my Gerbe. We're going to pop that into our bowl, and it is very important that we start off with a clean bowl. This one did come out of my dishwasher, so I know that there's no fat residue on it. If you're a little unsure, you can wipe your equipment down with a cloth with a little bit of vinegar and then just wipe that out. So Gerbe has gone in. I'm going to add about 10% of my sugar, or about a spoon or two. And I'm going to whisk this by hand together just to disperse that powder. Now let's go in with our water. And again, I'm going to mix this by hand with our whisk. And I'm going to do this for about 30 seconds. I just want to start to dissolve that powder and ensure that none of it's getting stuck down the bottom. If you're working with really large quantities, you can use an immersion blender for this step. Let's scrape down the sides and underneath. Now onto our stand mixer, and we're going to mix this on the lowest speed for 2 minutes until that powder is completely hydrated. Hey Google, set timer for 2 minutes. Okay, it's been 2 minutes, let's have a check. We just want to make sure that it's all dissolved, so let's scrape underneath down the bottom. Yep, it's looking good. Let's get it back on our mixer. And now we're going to add a third of our remaining caster sugar. On a medium speed, we're going to beat this until we reach the soft peak stage. So we only want to use the medium speed at this stage because we don't want to incorporate any large air bubbles. So we are at the soft peak stage. Let's take a look at our cold meringue, our French meringue. Probably needs a little bit more, but it is very ribbon-like, so we're almost there. Okay, let's take a look now. Yeah, that's a bit better. So our peaks are just starting to flop over, so we're at that soft peak stage, which means we can slowly start adding our remaining sugar. Let's put this back on a medium speed. And let's add our remaining sugar 1 spoon at a time. I'm going to scrape this down a little bit. At this stage, you can increase the speed slightly. We just don't want to go full speed. And we're going to beat this until we get a nice stiff peak and our sugar is completely dissolved. Okay, let's take a look. Oh, I've got a beautiful thick meringue. Look at that. Nice stiff peaks. Now you want to make sure that that sugar is dissolved. You can just rub a little bit of it between your 2 fingers, and if that is nice and silky smooth, then it is dissolved, so you're ready to go. This one's fine, so we're going to carry on to the next step. Now I will be making 2 colors today, so I need to divide my meringue into 2. So I'm going to first just weigh it and then divide it up. I do find it easier to use the separate bowls as opposed to these taller bowls to mix. It's just a bit easier. Now let's create our cream cheese buttercream filling now, and I will show you all the steps involved, including how you can substitute it to make it also dairy-free. So I am going to show you a little bit of a different way to make your filling today. So with the cream cheese frosting, they do sometimes tend to be quite grainy or too sweet. This buttercream is not going to be too sweet. It also is very stable, which is perfect for a macaron filling. You really don't want something that is going to come out the sides, be too loose. So having a nice stable filling is great, and not being too sweet is perfect because it complements those sweet shells. So let's get started. So you might be thinking why I have a saucepan here. Well, we're actually going to be creating a syrup out of our cream cheese and a little bit of sugar. And this is going to create a nice silky frosting and help to stabilize our buttercream. So going in, I have our cream cheese. Now you can use a dairy-free, which is what I'm using today, or just the traditional. And I have some sugar. And we're gonna heat this up on a very, very low heat. We just wanna melt down that sugar and our cream cheese. So I can see now that everything is nicely melted. Now, just to save a little bit of time, I'm going to cool this down very quickly. So I'm gonna pop this aside. And I just have a bowl here with some ice. Now, we don't wanna cool it down until it's like completely cold, but just to room temperature. Yep, and we're already there. So it's a nice and quick way to do it. Now to moving on to whipping our butter, I'm using a firm margarine today. And you just want to make sure that it's at room temperature. And to that, we're going to be adding some salt. And the star of the show, our Mahlep. That's our Mediterranean spice, which is made from the St. Lucie cherry tree. And it has this marzipan flavor. It's absolutely delicious. It smells like Christmas to me. And it comes in these little pods. They're just like little seeds, and I like to get them whole. You can get them ground. Here in Greece, it's very, very common. Or if you go into any like grocery stores that sell Greek or Turkish products, you'll find it there. And I like to grind them fresh because they're a lot more aromatic that way. And I like to start with like a heaped 1/4 teaspoon. We can always add more. It is quite a strong spice. So we're gonna do, yeah, maybe a 1/4 of that. So we're gonna try that first. And then you can just adjust, especially if you're using one that's already ground, you may find that you need more. Now we're gonna beat this on a medium speed for about 3 minutes or until it's nice and pale and fluffy. So it's been about 3 minutes. We've got a nice pale butter. And now I'm going to be adding some confectioner's sugar. Now the confectioner's sugar, it's a small amount, but it's going to help stabilize our butter, or our margarine in my case. And when we add that cream cheese syrup, it's less likely to split. So let's beat this again for another minute or two. Now that's been well combined, we're going to start adding in our cream cheese syrup. And I'm going to add probably like 1/3 at a time, just to make sure we've got a good emulsion. And now you are left with the smoothest cream cheese buttercream. Now, at any stage, if you're noticing that it starts to become really greasy, you can take your ice bowl that you used earlier and just pop it over there and continue whipping over that, or just place it in the fridge for about 15 minutes, especially if you're working in a really, really hot environment. If you notice that it is splitting, there is another couple of things that you can do. You can add a little bit more confectioner's sugar, or you may need to add a little bit more softened butter. So there's always ways to fix it, but I have used this buttercream, both the dairy-free and the traditional, and it works fantastically. Now all I'm doing now is you just want to deflate some of those big air bubbles, just going back and forth with your spatula, like so. And we're going to give this a bit of a taste. I do find as soon as you start making your buttercream, as soon as it's done, you will get very forward flavors of the fat that you're using. But after it sits in after it's put into your macarons and sit in the fridge for a while, all the flavors are going to come out a lot more. So all the spices. But let's give it a try now, because I just want to kind of gauge to see if we need to add any more of our Mahlep. Maybe let's just put a little bit more. I can taste it, but I really want it to be the star of the show. So I'm gonna add maybe another scant 1/4 teaspoon. Yeah, it definitely tastes like Christmas. Okay. And as you can see, it's like cream. It's absolutely beautiful. If you are using a dairy-free cream cheese and you find that it just doesn't have that tartness that you get from a traditional cream cheese, you can also add some lactic acid, and that will bring it out a lot more. But I'm happy with this. It looks fantastic. I'm gonna pop it into a piping bag now. So now that we have our cream cheese buttercream all ready to go, and we've already made our macaron shells, we can start assembling everything. Now, I just love how these turned out. We've got those iconic colors of the figs, of that deep purple and also that bright green color. So I've just pulled these out of my freezer. I've had them in there overnight. I made these yesterday. We are going to start putting the same sizes together. So this is important. When we're piping, there's always going to be some slight variation. So you want to go ahead and grab two, just make sure that they match up, and then just pop them onto your paper and continue on with the rest. I've also put some fig jam into a piping bag. I haven't put a tip on this, but you do want to make sure your fig jam is nice and smooth. If it's got some big pieces of figs, you might want to just chop those up until they're nice and fine. This was a fig jam that I made from some figs that I got a couple of summers ago, but the great thing is it just lasts so long, and it's going to add that beautiful flavor to complement our Mahlep. So I'm just gonna cut just a small hole at the tip, and I'm just gonna set that aside for now. We're going to start piping in our Mahlep cream cheese buttercream, and we want to do a nice circle but leaving a hole in the center. So just make sure you've got good pressure, make sure you twist, and then we are going to go ahead and see how we've got like a little hole in the center. And we're going to go in with a little bit of that fig jam in the middle, and then pop the top on, and there you go. And just carry on with the rest. Now that we have all of our macarons assembled, we need to transfer them to the fridge for 12 to 24 hours. And this is going to help them develop their signature texture and taste, and for all of those flavors to infuse inside the macaron shells. So I'm just going to put some cling wrap over the top. Of course, you could put these in a container as well, but I just like to have it on a tray just so that they don't move around while that filling is setting. And into the fridge.